RA Exchange. Welcome to Resident Advisor's Exchange. I'm Chloe Lula, your host and the Exchange's senior producer. This week, I had the pleasure of speaking with a true legend in the electronic music scene, Caroline Hervé, or Kittin, formerly known as Miss Kittin. Those of you familiar with Hervé might know her primarily for her contributions to the world of Electroclash, a genre that had its heyday in the early aughts. As part of the duo Miss Kittin and the Hacker, Hervé wrote music that inspired a generation of artists drawn to Electroclash's punky aesthetics, no-nonsense synth production, and humorous, ironic lyrics and vocal delivery. Miss Kittin and the Hacker even had their song Frankenstein included in the soundtrack of the cult 2003 movie Party Monster. In our interview, we talked about how the Electroclash scene became a home for artists seeking to push back against the rigidity of techno and the mainstream, ushering in a vanguard of weirdo performers like Peaches, who created a safe space for queerness and badass, unconventional femininity.
That later I realized was visionary, but when I did it, I was unconscious about it. I never wanted to be on stage, or I never wanted to be a singer, or... No, I didn't have that kind of ambition to be famous. Or my vision was like, how can we disturb what's established? You know? So meaning when we started making that kind of music with vocals, it was not welcomed in rave parties.
Hervé is also an accomplished DJ and producer in her own right. Behind the decks, she's as likely to play synthwave and electro as she is to play peak time techno. And in the studio, her creativity knows no bounds. Her last solo full-length, Cosmos, which came out on Dark Entries a couple of years ago, is one of her most experimental and self-described spiritual releases yet. In the last few years, much of her output has been inspired by a move to the countryside and a full life beyond touring and clubs. This includes horses, growing vegetables, connecting with nature, and unplugging from technology completely. She told me that she's in a stage of her life where she can finally enjoy what she's built and who she is. But she's still actively touring on the weekends and even reunited with the Hacker for a full-length album dedicated to Berghain, their favorite club. Now 50 years old, Hervé talked about what it means to age gracefully in the music industry, as well as how art and creativity can define what it means to have a truly liberated and independent life, especially as a woman. Kittin has been a heroine of mine for so many years and an icon to a lot of people who grew up in the electronic music scene. So it was really a dream come true to get to chat with her about music, life, femininity, being a woman, and so much more. So thank you so much for tuning in. Without further ado, here is Kittin. Hi, Miss Kittin.
Kittin.
Hi. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, that was even one of my first questions.
It's a joke.
I do want to begin by talking about your name. You dropped the Miss in Miss Kittin a few years ago. I know there's a little bit of a sexist history behind the Miss, and I was reading about that on your website.
Yeah, I realized this Miss was added by promoters on every female DJ back in the days when I started. Suddenly, I thought, like, I'm getting older. I'm not a Miss anymore. All my friends already called me Kittin, or even my first business card attempt was Kittin. So I have a proof that I didn't choose Miss. I spoke with my manager and we decided to drop it. But unfortunately, since the whole digital world, I cannot erase it from platforms such as Spotify or printed reasons. Mm-hmm. So it shows how our world also evolved. That if you change one symbol in your name or one writing, your whole catalog can disappear. That's funny.
Were you aware of the fact that promoters were doing this at the time, and were you upset about it, or it was something that was
I was aware, but I grew up with a bunch of male friends who actually pushed me to DJ. So in my close circle, I was in a bubble. I had no problem. It's only when I started to play a bit outside my city and that I understood that things were very different, that women were, of course, such a minority, but still powerful, like Isis from Holland or Miss Jax. They were really respected, Electric Indigo.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like not a big thing to be a woman, but from the audience and for men, because we were a minority, we were treated differently, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I've even had experiences in the last few years of promoters adding DJing in like a description of what
Or
I
DJet.
do. Yeah, it's like 2024. It's actually it's very upsetting.
Because the original name of DJ is disc jockey. A disc jockey can be a man or a woman.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're releasing music with The Hacker today, are you still releasing as Miss Kittin and The Hacker?
On platforms, yes, we have to, because it's our reference on catalogs and stuff. But on flyers and on the artwork of the album, it's Kittin and The Hacker, which was the original name. But when I announced that I was dropping the Miss and getting back my name, actually, he wrote me like, oh no, like, please don't do this for us. Like, Miss Kittin is such a monument in our conception of who you are. And I told him, don't worry, people will keep on calling me Miss Kittin because they are so used to it. So it's not disappearing.
Yeah.
It's just, don't worry about this. But it was cute because that's where you realize that you did something so much bigger than yourself, that somehow you're part of people's lives, you know?
Yeah. You released a record with a hacker not so long ago called Osbahnhof. And I am assuming that it's about Berghain. And there's a line that stands out from one song that says, I lived it 1,000 times. It's always the same. And I'm just wondering, you know, you're celebrating 30 years of DJing and being active in club culture. How does it feel reaching that milestone? Because I take it from lyrics like this in the song that maybe it's become a bit rote.
You know, that line you're talking about is getting into Berghain and having this excitement, rush, out-of-body experience and letting yourself go. And so it's a positive line, you know.
Okay.
Every job is repetitive somehow. There's no dream job without any efforts you have to put in to keep it interesting, you know.
Yeah.
Talking about 30 years of DJing, I realized that recently I didn't really count. The main thing that comes to my mind is that I could have never dreamed or expect to live such a life. And I'm so grateful to have seen the world, discover cultures, discover myself, express myself, and most of all, be free, because that was always my dream since I was a little girl. Growing up not in a very emotional, healthy family, from very young age, I always told myself I want to be free of my parents, free of men, free of everything. So I wanted to not to owe anybody anything, to be independent. And I reached that point. And more than that, like financially free of decision, which is the real luxury in this world. I'm also free of my own fears and my own limitations. That's a life achievement. And I think music was a ship, like a boat, a car, a big bus to get me there. And I could have done anything else that would lead me to that quest of freedom. So that's why my relationship to music is also very independent. I love music for everything it taught me and bring me in my life, but I don't depend on it to be happy or to live, because I love it too much to have this codependency.
Yeah.
30 years of working on freedom, especially as a woman, with all the things I've been through. I told myself I can die in peace because I brought something into this world, you know, very humbly, you know, but yeah, that's what makes me very happy about my career. Yeah.
You alluded to getting older as a woman in this industry, and I know that the performing arts isn't always kind to women, especially. What has your experience been like?
Being 51 soon.
As like someone who's still very actively touring.
I'm not touring that much by choice, and also because I have more interesting things to do in life as well, aside working, aside that music passion. and that's great. I have a rich life, to be able to listen to myself, in fact. That's a very simple answer, but when I'm tired, I sleep. When I'm upset, I let myself be upset. Or when I want to be energetic, so it's not like I have a plan and I like a sport coach and I need to play, I need to do my exercises, I need to eat super healthy. No, I enjoy life. And that's freedom as well. I have no rules. I choose not to play too much because I still want to deliver honest quality and be completely involved when I play. I don't want to play like a machine because I have to be seen. I feel also more comfortable in my own body because I thought enough of this judgment and this pain of dysmorphia, and people basically don't come see me perform because of how I look. It's for something much deeper, and I think that's why I'm still here.
Yeah.
It shows an important topic is to bring back why you're doing what you do. Is it to be loved, desired, consciously you objectify yourself? Or you do this because you have like a universal force inside of you that makes you want to express something, to connect with other people. So that's why it's important to set yourself free of this self-body destruction energy,
Yeah, totally.
So
I know that one of your strategies for being very present has been to move to the countryside. And we were talking about this before the interview and how it's been one of the most important decisions that you've made. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know you're living about an hour and a half out of Paris now.
Yeah, it just happened. Why not having a house there? I found it in a day. Always the first places I ever visited, I don't know, it's my karma to be able to have quickly a home. When the renovations were done, I just simply couldn't go back to the city. And I realized so very late in my life how we are nature creatures and how unnatural it is to live surrounded by concrete. But for me, it was like a big revelation, even though now it sounds obvious. And of course, then I go play. I'm full of this incredible green energy. The techno problems look very small,
of course,
comparing to go back home and I have to cut wood because it's cold. And that's the real problems of humans, not all this craziness I lived all my life. Just happier and more focused, more vivid, more aware, my eyes more opened. Everything seemed more alive.
You wrote your solo album, Cosmos, it came out on Dark Entries during a period while you were recovering from touring exhaustion. And you've described it as your most spiritual release yet. It's quite different from a lot of the other records that you've put out. It's a little bit more introspective, ambient. Can you talk about that?
Well, I actually recorded it when I just moved to the country. My house was nearly furnished. I had no studio plugged. So I recorded most of the drafts on my computer in the dark in my empty living room. So it's really the most minimalistic. And also because the music I listened to the most all my life was ambient.
I know you love Aphex Twin.
Of course. Aphex and Biosphere, later Boards of Canada. But I have a huge vinyl collection of electronica and ambient. I think it's the classical music form in electronic for me. I always wanted to reduce my music to the maximum, and that was the perfect way to do it. And also surrounded by nature, that's what came out. Also, when I write, it's by intuition, impulsion. I don't choose what I'm going to write. I don't go to the studio and say, today I'm going to do a techno track. No, it's like, I have a song coming from somewhere and I put it out. I go in the studio, I write it, done. And then it's production. But so this album was made like that. Like that's what came out of me at this moment.
Yeah.
And definitely I have also a very rich spiritual life that I don't talk about because it's something that you have to live and practice. And it's not something I show off because it's sacred in a way. So yeah, being in nature became an emergency at that time. Yeah.
So I want to take a trip back to Grenoble, where you grew up. You knew from quite a young age that you wanted to be an artist, and you were going to raves as a teenager, and you left home the next morning after going to a rave. So can you tell me about what that experience was like?
We were with Michel, the hacker, and some friends who I'm still friends with. We went regularly to a new wave club, and they invited the first electronic DJs from Spain. And we heard there was a rave. Like the first time we heard the word rave was from a flyer that some faraway DJ organized a party like the next week. So we went all together in 2 cars, and it was a revelation. When the music was over, we didn't see time flying, and we went to an after hour. It was a voting day in a village. Upstairs, people were voting. Downstairs were this small after hour, big like the space we are in. And we danced till 6 in the afternoon. And we came back around 8 o'clock, and voting offices closed at 8. And my mom was working in a voting office. And I arrived like 2 minutes too late. I didn't vote. And she came out and she slapped me. She was ashamed, close to her workers at the voting office, that I didn't show up. She was ashamed. And after what I experienced, that freedom and that window that I could write my own life, like I knew it wasn't going to the office and having a regular job. I understood going to that rave party that everything was possible, that it would be very hard. I would be on my own, misunderstood, but I could do it. If I believe in it, and I could do it. I didn't know how, and I went home and I said, I'm leaving. That's the day I realized that I could write my own story, you know.
Wow.
And I know every time I play, there is this feeling that I lived on my first rave is with me when I play. Because I know maybe in the crowd, one person will feel the same. And if you speak with other DJs or musicians, or like Lux Later, for instance, in an interview, he said something very similar. And so this day is how you say, is still a motivation, and also why I do what I do.
Yeah.
When I go play, it's not to shine. It's not to say, look at me, I'm a great DJ, I'm a great songwriter, I'm amazing. It's just like, you can do it too. I'm very sincere in saying this, because every time I tell the story, I'm back in this little rave where that changed my vision of life. It didn't change my life, but it gave me the hope to become who I am today, you know. So that's how powerful music is.
So when you left home, you didn't have any idea of how you would get to that. I think at the time you thought you would be a visual artist. Is that?
I was at art school, like fine art school, to become a contemporary artist. I was not fitting in. What I was doing as a visual artist was too graphic for what they were expecting at the moment. It's like fashion. There was a trend in contemporary art schools. And I didn't fit in, so they kicked me out.
They kicked you out?
Like legally, even though I had really great grades, they kicked me out to a graphic school, and there I sucked completely because I was too contemporary artist-like for graphic design, and I didn't have the skills of computers, or it was a disaster. I was really in a dark place because it was unfair. I was, again, misunderstood. You question authority, and again, this feeling like I know I'm right. People who are my authority are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I can't stand injustice. It drives me nuts because you don't have your say. You have to swallow it. And then all this rage, I put it in the music. I transformed it into something that elevates rather that takes me to dark places like drugs, or I wanted to win. I didn't want darkness to win, so.
Yeah.
But I still do dreams about this education failure of being misunderstood.
But it's almost like, imagine if that hadn't happened, you wouldn't be
That's
who you are today.
what I told the stupid teachers who didn't defend me when I was expecting them to have my back. I saw them later in parties and they were like, I always knew you would make something. And I said, not because of you. It's things you hard to forget because you are doing a good job. But you are different. They don't want you,
Yeah.
So it gives you the rage to write your own thing.
At what point did you end up finding DJing? And I know you did start making music when you linked up with the hacker.
After my first rave, we were a group of friends and we were hooked. Every weekend we had to go to a rave and we were driving hours to listen to Laurent Garnier and some Chicago DJ and Detroit DJs. And my friends had turntables. So they were like, Caro, you should try, all the tracks. You're always in front of the DJ, first and last on the dance floor. You should really try. So my boyfriend at the time made me try at his place and I put easily 2 records together. I think I was lucky, but I got it. I knew how it works. And so I bought my first records. I was missing school to practice at my friend's place and recording tapes without stopping to, if there were mistakes, I would learn from that. And I learned to play very fast on a big sound system, turbo sound, because I didn't have turntables at home. I had to go to friends before I had a little gig. And I was like, yeah, it's not a job. So I never dreamed of doing this professionally. So I always took very seriously every opportunity to play I had, thinking it might be the last time. Yeah, technically, I made a point to be excellent, to never touch my records, to play pitch control because I was playing very fast, acid like Woody McBride, all the drop bass network, DJ ESP and Freddie Fresh and a lot of the Spiral Tribe. So there is a lot of really fast sequences. If you touch the record, you can hear it. So technically, it had to be like sharp. And also boys were staring at me and if they were waiting for one mistake, so I had to be perfect.
Wow.
And I liked that skill, to be really tight on mixing. And that's why I still love DJing more than performing. Performing live for me is not that interesting because first I love to play music of other people. And second, I don't need this exposure to exist. For me, it's even too violent. And I love to write the songs, but I don't like to perform them.
Yeah. Well, when you did start making music, one of your claims to fame is that you've really been a pioneer of the Electroclash music alongside artists like Peaches. And for people maybe who are unfamiliar, but it really melds electro and techno. It's very irreverent. I think it pushes back a lot against a lot of the self-seriousness of techno. And there's a liberating self-sufficiency to the Electroclash scene, I think. And I was reading an interview that Peaches did. She said, I just started screwing around thinking I can be the drummer, I can be the keyboard player, I can be the bass player, I can make weird sounds. She said it was so awesome because it's all these women leading a fucking revolution. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to play electronic music. You can infuse your badass femininity and your badass queerness and make cool music the way you want to. And when I read that, I thought of you because it resonates so much.
I really think like Peaches is another level than me, She's such a force of nature performer, rock icon, and activist She has many talents that I don't have, and that's why I love her so much. I have a more introspective talent in a way, a more cerebral approach. My life was a succession of intuitions that later I realized was visionary, but when I did it, I was unconscious about it. Like when I called the hacker, because my friends did a compilation and they asked me for a track. There was no lyrics on this first track, but when we made music with the hacker, he wanted to make music because he saw Depeche Mode when on TV in the late 70s. I never wanted to be on stage, or I never wanted to be a singer, or no, I didn't have that kind of ambition to be famous, but I was trapped in this thing and I did it like a good soldier in a way. Michel saw in me like a chance to do one of these duets he admired, like Visage, Eurythmics, or I don't know. But my vision was like, how can we disturb what's established? You know? So meaning when we started making that kind of music with vocals, it was not welcomed in rave parties. Raves were built against the rock system with stages and bands. And suddenly Electroclash bring back this kind of band thing like Peaches did. But we were influenced mainly by Detroit, by Doppler Effect, also by IF, by this kind of ironic, dark electro, very nerdy. The pop side was what made us bigger and appealing to a bigger audience. Our approach was more nerdy than that, you know?
Yeah.
And when the word Electroclash appeared, we already stopped touring, more or less. Like, Electroclash started to be famous and die at the same time with Fisher Spooner, with Larry T. As soon as it was labeled,
Yes.
it started to die. And the same with punk. As soon as McLaren stole the word punk from Legs McNeil in New York, CBGB, punk died, because punk was born also in Detroit with MC5 and Iggy Pop. And as soon as you start to label something, it's over. Usually it's 4-5 years of intense touring and then it stops. So Electroclash basically was hot for 5 years and then it was over. And I must say, thank God.
Well, how does it feel to revisit the project with the hacker now?
Well, the difficulty is not to live on what you've done. It's to still be creative and to still find what you are unique at and good at. It's not so easy because you're like, nobody's waiting for us. What should we talk about? Who are we today? What do we want to express? You know, it's what you think about when you go to the studio. So you have to shut down everything and remember why you're here, why you are doing this. So we spoke like, Michel, why are we still friends? How come we did what we did? That's the only thing that should inspire us, like not what is expected from us or what is trendy. And I think we wanted to get more radical. And so I pushed Michel to write music that was more radical and even in his pop formula, because there is 2 tracks that are really pop in the album, but the rest is really itchy, you know? And the itchy ones are my favorites, always. The trashy ones are my favorites. And my least favorites are the most popular. Like, yeah.
Well, all of your solo releases are way more experimental than what I've heard you put out with Michel. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I need to explore while Michel is crafting a style. It's like filmmakers. You have people doing a historical movie and a sci-fi movie, and then you have people who do the same movies and try to make it better time after time. I'm a versatile artist. I think I got that from Laurent Garnier. That, again, it's also the practice of freedom to never forbid yourself anything. So I need to go where I've never been. I need to explore. So it's hard because it's an ambitious thing to constantly explore. And sometimes you don't know where to go, But Michel, I feel secure with him because I know him by heart and vice versa. I feel secure because in his way of making music, because he knows it very well, his style.
If you bring yourself back to the 90s and the early 2000s with, the birth of what we now call Electroclash, did it feel like an exciting moment or like a new avenue for creative possibility?
What was exciting is this bunch of guys like Tiga, Vitalik, also Terence Fixmer. We were a bunch of like friends, fans of a music that was not like so cool to say you like at the time. We were reconciling our influences of like teenagers with the music of today. That was for us the definition of Electroclash. And it was a very fast life. We were playing a lot in really poor technical conditions, no assistants, no sound engineer. So it was really punk. So we didn't have time to realize what was happening. We were following DJ Hell and Gigolo in their adventures, and we were trying to do our job the best we could. But at that time, we didn't have the possibility to realize what was going on. Now, of course, we are happy to be called pioneers of a certain genre of music, and we see it a lot when we go to America, because where rock is very big, we see that Electroclash brought a lot of the rock fans into electronic music as well. Mm-hmm. We realized how widely it touched people.
Yeah. What's exciting to you in music today?
Oh, a lot of things. I'm excited by how the young generation can digest the classics like rave classics or techno classics and make it their own.
I almost see a direct line between what you were doing in the early 2000s and like hyperpop right now, a little bit.
But I do like some happy stuff if it's ironic.
Yeah.
And I like to play that.
Yeah.
It's pumping, it's in your face, and it's like a big fuck off.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. René Wiese for techno or Benjamin Damage. There is a lot of great Fadi Mohem. There is a lot of really, really great techno, and I realized that a lot of them were discovered by Mode Selector.
That's interesting.
So a lot of their first productions was on their Monkey Town or whatever label.
Yeah,
so it's funny. Okay, it's not my scene at all. Like some pumping fast house with a lot of samples. If you go to a party like that, it's really cheesy. But if you play one track like that in a dark techno set, that's a bomb, So I love to pick in all kinds of genres, tracks that I have the vision. Yeah, I can play it like this and like that.
Yeah.
And then people Shazam because it's like, where can I find this? Yeah, it's on another planet. You won't find it at Hardwax. But they have in Hardwax or in a lot of record stores, they have that kind of geekiness, humor.
Yeah.
But you have to do a lot of research. You have to listen to a lot of different things and surely not stay in the same line. I mean, at least for me, because I get bored very quickly. So
no, but I love that you bring some irony and a sense of humor to your music, because I do feel like that is still lacking, especially in techno.
I'm French. We have like this horrible dark sense of humor. We complain a lot. We criticize all the time. So we need that in our life. We need that kind of second degree irony. And then that's the question of craft and art. How to make it cool, because you can play a joke track and it can look like shit. You can miss the point totally. And that's what I like, this brain game to put things together that would never fit.
I have to ask about your lyric writing, because a lot of your songs they're sexy and they're funny. I'm thinking of like Frankenstein, which ended up on Party Monster, which is this cult movie. How do you decide what you're going to write lyrics about? And is it usually just you writing them?
It's hard. It's a mystery even for me, but I'm trying. I'm trying to find the right energy, the right moment, and catch these words in my head and write. And I can't explain that process because it takes a lot of patience and a lot of doing nothing type of moments and being non-productive to suddenly have this river flow of inspiration. And right now I don't have it. And that's okay, because I'd rather wait 10 more years and write a killer song than writing average stuff. So you have to know how you function, and you have to wait for the right timing. And you can't control that. You can't force it. Rick Rubin spends his time writing quotes about that.
Oh gosh, I know. I subscribed to his
but
Instagram
it's
account.
very true, yeah.
Yes.
But it's true. You can't force it. You're a channel. You are granted two, three, few times in your life to write something great. And I'm lucky because I always find the right words and the right inspiration at some point. Like I just have a track with Luke Slater.
I've heard it. I love it on his new Techno album.
And it was really hard. I struggled to find the right approach, the right words, and I got inspired from his own interview on the radio that I was also on, and he really touched me. And then the track is opening his album, which is a big honor, But I had to fight a lot to find the right words. And that's poetry, Poetry takes a lot of time. And words are so important. Words have their own spirit. That's why when you want to do a track with a voice, with vocals and lyrics, I can't do just like a track with stupid lyrics. It has to have like a really strong meaning to me. Otherwise, it's bad karma,
But I think that this approach is a healthy one to have, because I feel, and this is a conversation I feel that I'm having with so many friends and other artists, it's like there's just so much urgency to put out music, and it ends up being a bit thoughtless, a lot of what we're listening to every day.
It depends what drives you. We all have different dreams. Of course, like my dream is an artistic one, a purpose one, but some people have other dreams of fame and glory and money, and I respect it. None of my business. But speaking about my work, I need to go to bed and be proud of what I did. I need to feel it's right. It's hard to explain this feeling, but everybody knows, like when you're cooking a nice meal, it's right. It's the right dose. And that's the same. When I make music, I need to feel that. Otherwise, I do something else.
What is your creative practice like nowadays? Since you are spending so much time reconnecting with nature, maybe taking longer breaks from actually being in the studio?
Well, right now, I'm absolutely not creative. It's been a while. It's been more or less since I released the album with the hacker and we toured live. So when I tour and sing, I can't be creative because the live process is really demanding. It's like a sport event every night. You have to sing right in tune. So after that, usually I'm empty, So use this time to nourish your life with other things. So I don't think about it. I don't wake up and say, fuck, another day without inspiration. No, live your life. Enjoy your life. You worked hard. You have a beautiful life. You have a beautiful house. You have animals. You travel, but not too much. You have plenty of time for the first time in your life. So it's a time where I learn to enjoy what I have, who I am, and what I built. And trust me, it's not easy because it's the hardest thing to do.
Or have you ever anticipated maybe exploring other untouched creative avenues? Since I know you do have a past as a different kind of artist.
Well, I still write. I paint. I just built a painting studio. So that's more... I'm still doing things. I never stop doing things. I never sit in the sofa and do nothing. I'm always like in the garden riding my horse, which is very challenging because it makes you face all your fears, all your still blocked things inside of you. So that's a really creative activity. That's a big part of my life since 6 years now. I'm a creative person in many ways, but it's a daily life.
Yeah. What do you look forward to the most in the next chapter of your life, both personally and creatively?
Yeah, well, to age gracefully. That's a goal, because in music, there is not so many examples, especially in electronic music, so much senior figures to look up to. And in the world in general, there is not so much natural aging figures, because I made the choice not to touch my face, or like, I'm not talking only about surgery or injections, but talking about, like, I've never had a facial in my life. It's a choice. It's an activist choice to say, leave me alone. And I don't want to give money to an industry that makes women feeling guilty of aging. I think we worked so hard that we deserve to age in peace. But I know some others would say, we have tools to make aging more bearable. I don't judge. I'm just saying for myself that that's really my kind of activism. And I want to show to future women aging that you have the right to age naturally and not spend your money and your time fighting against time. Because one, it's a lost battle, and you can use this energy to live this time better and be happy, you know. Aging gracefully, I'm also talking about it to my team, to my agent, to my manager. And this means, like, not playing too much. So far, so good. I'm feeling great, you know, like, and soon there will be menopause. I'm not there yet, but I have no symptoms whatsoever, which is, I'm lucky, you know, because all my friends are living hell, have to take treatments. We have to talk about these things, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm gaining weight. Yeah, my boobs are growing, but you can't have it all, you know. It's normal.
For anyone who hasn't watched the Teaches of Peaches documentary, they should. But it was, and you make a cameo in it at the end, but it is so badass. Just like, she really embraces, I think she makes a comment at one point about someone at one point was really grossed out by hair. And she was like, well, I'm just going to be hairy on stage then. And she, like, leans into things that society has found traditionally kind of like unacceptable. So she's just, I guess she's almost 60 now. And she's like basically naked on stage. Her pubes are out, and it's just really awesome.
Yeah, she got it. She got everything. She's the best advocate of the sexualization of women since day one. So she was really advanced on that. And she can also do it because I wonder, like, if she was this typical Caucasian beauty, like blonde, blue eyes, big mouth, and, you know, with a model body type, like, if it would have worked. She can do it also because her intention is that. And that's very interesting because when you get on stage, especially as a woman, or on stage, could be a dinner, could be entering an art gallery, how you present yourself. If your intention is to present yourself as a strong woman, independent, and not as a sexual object, meaning if you're not in the seduction to please men or to attract sexuality, you won't look like that. And that's where empowerment raises questions, because a lot of when women use their body and their sexuality to gain power, I'm asking myself, like, do you always have to go through sexuality and use your body as a weapon to gain power as a woman? My answer is no. I don't want to do that, because we've done it enough. What else do you propose? And I think Peaches is showing this in your face by using this, making it as a circus. And that's the thing, like, to be powerful, beautiful, and do you really need to show your body? Why does it has to always be sexual? So I know in a woman life, there is always a phase where you need to get in control of your sexuality, and it's great. But I'm interested in other solutions, because at the end, we know that by heart. And I thought, like, we were consciousness were growing enough, but I see not. And I also see it in our scene. People will see that it's your narcissist and desire to be loved, accepted, that pushes you to get naked, because it's a shortcut to get followers, or, because someone who is confident doesn't need to get naked, unless you like to have naked holidays on a camping, but there's no cameras.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think everything you're saying it's really important, and
very
it definitely resonates with my experience of being in the music industry right now. And
again, I think I don't criticize, because people have to do their experiences. I did a lot of things I'm not proud about. I did a lot of things where obviously I didn't love myself. And worse than that, I had zero respect for myself. So that's why I'm talking about it now. And that's why I understand. But I'm just asking the question.
It was really great chatting with you. Thank you so much for coming in and making this happen. I've always been a huge fan of your work and
thank you.
Just everything you represent. So no,
thank you. No, it's really, it's only recently that I understand, that I can hear it. For years I was just doing things. I never looked back. And now I'm like, 30 years. And I did this, I did that. And for the first time, I'm kind of proud.
Yeah, you should be.
Because it's beyond music. And that's, wow. Like me, the little girl from Grenoble, I did that, it's really amazing. It's cool.
It is cool.
So
congratulations.
Yeah. But it's not over. I still have to, I could retire now, but I was like, okay, I do one last album, but so far it's not coming. So maybe there won't be any last album, but let's see.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Destination Osmanov.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Aria Exchange with Kittin. The track playing in the outro is Osmanhof from her album Third, written with the Hacker. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe to the Aria Exchange wherever you listen to podcasts, and check out our full archive of conversations on aria.co or on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you regularly tune in. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you next week.